Hi, this is Mrs. Demastry, and I have a video for you today on the introduction to how to read literature like a professor. Basically, in the introduction, Thomas C. Foster is talking to us about the difference in the way that a student would read a book and the way that a teacher would read a book, at least an English teacher. Um, the visual I have here is a meme that you may or may not have seen on the internet. I know I have definitely seen it. My students have brought it to my attention several times, and they often joke with me about it. Um, so, Basically, we have this meme making fun of us English teachers and suggesting, as many students often do, that we are reading too much into these books. Why can't a book just be a fun story? Maybe he just sat down and wanted to tell us about, a cool idea that he had. Well, that may be true. In some instances, but especially with classic texts that we read in ninth and 10th grade that have stood the test of time, it's not easy to sit down and write a book on a typewriter or with pen and paper. And these books are written in a very deliberate and elaborate way. So, what we are looking at here is an English teacher who has knowledge of these tiny little sneaky tools that authors use to add meaning to their texts, and students who are just starting to grasp what those tools are, and in a lot of ways still need to know about those tools. And here we have How to Read Literature Like a Professor. That is the book that we've assigned to you so that you can learn some of these sneaky little tools that the authors are using to add meaning to their texts. And maybe you won't think the curtains are just blue when you're all said and done. Okay, so Thomas Foster talks about reading on many levels. He basically talks about levels 2 and 3 from this slide, but I added number 1 just because to feel like we accomplished something already. Level 1, to grasp a basic understanding of plot and details. Go you. You've already done this. You're a pro. If you weren't a pro, I hope you wouldn't be taking Pre-AP 10 English. The second level is a level that Thomas Foster talks about, and he says that this is the total purpose for an author writing a novel. The author wants us to connect emotionally to the story that they're telling. Now, can we do that without knowledge of archetypes and symbolism and analyzing every choice? Yeah, we totally can. In Of Mice and Men, we can still get emotional when we see Lenny get killed by George, even if we didn't understand the parallelism between Candy's dog and, Lenny as a character. But if we go to level 3, if we recognize the archetypes and symbols the author uses to add meaning, which is the purpose of reading How to Read Literature Like a Professor in the first place, it can help us, understand that purpose a little bit better. If we know and can make a connection between Candy's dog and Lenny, maybe it'll help us understand that situation more and what George was feeling and what Steinbeck, the author, wants us to feel at the end of that book. So, how do you start reading on a level 3 to get that deeper meaning? Well, it's kind of like multitasking. You have to do multiple things at once. So, the first thing that you need to do is as you read, engage your memory. Ask yourself constantly, is this reminding me of anything that I've seen before? Any movie that I've seen? A TV show? Anything like that? Is there a pattern that I am seeing before? So, for example, we have the repetitiveness of the deaths in Of Mice and Men. If you start to make connections between the way that this dog dies and the way that Curly's wife dies and the way that Lenny dies, you can start to add meaning to those things and see how they're connected. The second thing you need to do is always be on the lookout for archetypes and symbols. Annotate your book for archetypal characters, situations, and symbols as you go. Obviously, the meaning isn't going to come out and bite you in the butt in the first half of the book. You're going to need to see the plot progress and the theme progress in order to really see what the purpose of those things are. But if you track them over the course of the book, you can kind of see how they change and evolve in the different situations in which they occur. And that can help you add meaning, and it'll definitely help you if you ever have to write about those things. And the third step is to look past the story. It's easy for us as readers to do one of two things. The first one is to zone out completely and read the assigned section and get to the end and be like, what? What did I just read? The second thing it's easy for us to do is to get super into the story and keep turning the page to find out what happens next. So, here's a trick that I use and might help you, especially as you start your summer reading, to keep yourself on track. So, you open a book, you've got a left side and a right side. At the bottom of the right side of the page, pause before you go on to that next page and ask yourself, okay, was there anything noteworthy in here? Anything archetypal? Any imagery that stood out? Names? Are we seeing patterns possibly? And if you can't even get anything like that, just go ahead and do a summary of what was on those pages, whether it was as simple as a conversation about this between characters A and B, or description of this particular setting. Okay, these authors are not just filling pages for no reason, they're giving you that information for a purpose. So if you ever need to look back to find it, or maybe it'll show up later on, you'll know that by keeping yourself active in your reading. Okay, I've brought up archetypes a few times in this presentation so far, and just to refresh your memory, archetypes are situations, symbols, or characters that appear in literature, film, TV, music, art, or any other type of storytelling inside and across cultures. One example that you learned about in the ninth grade is the hero's journey. It's a situational archetype, which means it's built on events that you'll see over and over again. Throughout stories, like whether you're going for ancient Greek with Odysseus or modern day with like Batman and Harry Potter. They're doing the same types of things, going through the same events. So, just to refresh your memory, here is a video on the hero's journey. It's also going to talk about archetypes a little bit.
What do Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo all have in common with the heroes of ancient myths? What if I told you they are all variants of the same hero? Do you believe that? Joseph Campbell did. He studied myths from all over the world
Sorry about some of the feedback there. It got a little squeaky. Maybe it didn't come through on your end. Okay, so yeah, archetypes are archetypes because they are something that we can universally identify with. In every culture, we see temptresses, we see shapeshifters, people whose alliances we don't know if we can trust, like a Snape type character. So that's why they are archetypes. They appear everywhere and throughout history. All right, so reading How to Read Literature Like a Professor will help you identify and become familiar with several new archetypes that are pretty common that you'll see throughout literature for the rest of your academic career. So pay attention as you're reading. I know some of the examples aren't that great, so keep checking back here to this channel, and I will have some videos related to some of the chapters, not all, but I definitely have one already made for the one about the quest, featuring one of my favorite Disney movies. So I'll see you back on this channel soon, and enjoy How to Read Literature Like a Professor and the Arabian Nights.